2, 1. Good afternoon, and welcome to the 11th episode of the iGaming Next podcast. Today, Heidi Lofthus, the Chief People Officer of ComeOn Group, is joining us. Hello, Heidi.
Hello, Pierre. Hello, everyone. Nice being here.
Nice to have you. Nice to have you with us. We are discussing a quite current topic today, which is to return or not to return to the office. Interesting topic. But first of all, I'd like you to introduce yourself a little bit to us, Heidi. Who are you, and what's your background?
I'm Heidi Lofthus. I'm currently tired of myself and my own company. I've been sitting in this room for 3 months now. I am the Chief People Officer at ComeOn Group. And I've been with ComeOn since nearly 2 years now. Born and raised within gaming, I would say, within the industry. Slipped into gaming in Gibraltar 2007. So I started off very operational, from support all the way up, payments, fraud, operations, some marketing, and internal partner workings. And then we moved to Malta, set up Redbet, believed that was the last gaming company that I was going to work for. But then I happily joined ComeOn, and I proved myself very, very wrong.
And now you're here. Fantastic.
Yes. I think that gaming has that impact on many people, especially the people that joined more than 10 years ago. Once you start, you just never stop.
Yeah, it's one of those industries, isn't it, where you get into it, and it's a great industry in the sense that you can really start from the bottom and work your way up. And
exactly, and it actually benefits you in more than many ways. I mean, even for yourself, starting off as a poker player and linger in gaming by providing us services. So it's good.
Yeah, exactly. And I think actually your CEO is a good example of this as well. Lasse, who is a good friend of both of us, obviously. He started as an affiliate manager just 5 or 6 years ago, and or 7 years ago. So and
2013, I think.
Yeah, and now he's the CEO of a massive company. That just goes to show the opportunities within the gaming industry, which I think is amazing. So Heidi, I must say it's a little bit strange talking in English to you, because you're a friend of mine. We're both Swedish, and we are used to speaking Chinese usually.
So we spent 30 minutes just now speaking Swedish, and now we flip our languages.
Exactly, but it's fantastic to have you with us here today, Heidi. And as mentioned in the start, the topic of today is to return or not to return to the office. So naturally, my first question to you, Heidi, is what is your own feeling right now? Do you want to go back to the office, or are you comfortable being in your Swedish hut?
in my Swedish hut. So for the rest of everyone to know, we went back to Sweden in March when the schools closed, thinking it's much easier to be with lots of nature, with parents being helpful, and even friends and relatives and cousins, etc., which has very much turned out to be true. So I would say that being in our normal vacation place, previous homes, many years ago we used to live here, obviously has a feeling of, when I close down the computer at the evening, I'm back in a vacation spot. So it has like a natural sort of glance to it. It's obviously very nice. And I mean, we're a tech company, we're a digital company, just like all the other gaming companies. We are able to work from home. And you were saying this before as well. I found the routine in this, and it is nice to be able to steer your own days, making sure that I spend enough times with the kids, and making working times in the evenings or early mornings. We have that flexibility with our parents, obviously. So for me, definitely works. I love it. But I also miss, like, really and truly, the office and my colleagues. I can't wait for the 5 o'clock macchiato with my Italian friends at the office. and just because we're sitting here, we don't do that. We're hardly keeping in contact. So I really, really miss that. Yeah, but I think we started talking about this topic several months ago, almost in the beginning of the HR Connect calls that we set up. But it's obviously a subject that is getting just hotter and hotter, because now, over the coming weeks, companies in the industry, especially in Malta, are returning back. So.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I mean, for us, for myself, I returned to the office for the first time last week. I came back on Monday, and it was a strange feeling, I must say, because like we discussed just before the podcast, I had kind of gotten used to the new routines that I've created for myself and so forth. And coming back to the office, all of a sudden I realized how much time I'm losing by the commuting to the office and from the office and so forth. So I must say it was a little bit a mixed feeling for myself to return to the office in that regard. But how has go on.
No, I was going to say, like, because you sort of you go back, you necessarily don't go back to your own self. You're sort of forced to find new habits. You can get rid of old ones that you didn't like. You can add new ones. Do you really need that coffee on the way in? Or maybe you should have a coffee on the way in. So it's sort of, you're finding a new self at the same time that you're meeting everyone else for the first time. So it's, it's like a child going to kindergarten for the first time. It's obviously a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. This kind of, because in the beginning, I think that it was a little bit difficult on the other end to get used to working from home and at the start, but that was strange in itself. And then you kind of get used to that, and once you get used to it, then it's again you have to get used to new routines once again. Do you find this from your guys, from your employees as well? Do you have kind of any feedback similar to that, or how is the feeling? Do people want to get back? Do they want to stay? A mix?
We added the question of the change of routine specifically because we're feeling it ourselves. In general, we've had, so among our biggest locations, obviously London is still closed. Stockholm and Malta have always been open for people to be able to go back to or continue a normality. We've had about 7% throughout, and now it's increasing. So we have an organic growth. The people that want to go back can actually do so and have always been able to do so. Now, since the last month, it's a bit more structured in you need to report, you contact HR and the office, informing them that you will be coming in, you sign, we're informed of who is going in. But the sentiment of always having the people, the offices open has always been there for those that need it for whatever reason, mental health or just work productivity or workstation. But we have also been sending out service over the course of time, somewhat similar, but also differentiating as per how developments are going. But they're always around productivity, communication, and should we go back to the office? How are your feelings around it? But also, what would make you hesitate? And the hesitation is both because people they feel more productive. They want to save time and don't commute. And some people are also afraid of contamination for oneself or for people living in their households, but also the change of routine. And going back to the office, as you're saying, must be so very much harder than actually just staying home, because everyone is already quite comfortable in their home. But I would be surprised if you, Pierre, in a couple of days or next week, feel just like we're back on track.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I think it is like that too. I would say that the difference is like maybe not everyone had the understanding of how it would be to work from home before this crisis actually hits. So being able to learn how great it is to actually have a little bit of a free time, outside of office hours, might make it that they prefer more, obviously, to work from home as we go forward. Because that's something I noticed for myself, is just now when I did return to the office, my day was basically I wake up, I go to the office, I go to the gym, and I come home, I make food, and then it's 10 p.m. I go to bed. There's no more time, basically. Whereas during this period, I kind of had a lot more flexibility. I had some more time for myself and so forth. So I wonder if that is something that people are going to kind of realize as well, so to say. And as they move forward, maybe they will want to request kind of more specifically to have days where they work from home more than before. Is that something you guys have thought about like what policies you will set up? I know that you're a bit flexible right now, but what's your thoughts in general?
So the feedback from the group is also so if we have 4 different answers, how would you feel going to how after COVID, what's your preferred way of working? So we have one, which is the most popular one, continue as we are, which is basically you can work from home or you can go to the office. We're not recommending or encouraging anyone to do anything of it. People are free to choose, just as you were saying, until we haven't set a date. And we can come back to the reason why we haven't set a date later on.
But where do you draw the line? Sorry to interrupt, Heidi. Do you allow people to travel and work from abroad, for example? Do you allow people to, if they want to work from home 5 days a week, do you allow that without any? Are you that flexible?
For now, yes, exactly. So the majority of the people want to continue as we are now, or continue, but with a more flexible working from home policy than we've previously had. And yes, compared to if you're working in a supermarket, we are extremely flexible. But then we have competitors that have basically working from home schemes. So we're somewhere in the middle. Obviously, you should be able to lead your own life. You need to be able to sort out your personal stuff, even if you're working. But the sense morale is more, you need to put in X amount of hours to be able to do your job. And we want to meet at the office because that's where we, as Todd was saying last week, that's where we can actually high five and meet each other and actually start working for each other. But and then we have some people that really want to work in the office, about 15%, and then we have some people that sort of want to give the responsibility to their managers. My manager knows what's best for me and my team, basically. But yes, the more than 80% wants to continue as is, or with a flexible working from home scheme. So we know this, and we would all feel it. It's more, should we say now, here and now, when all these restrictions are actually starting to open up, if we go out and say, let's continue as is until the end of the year, and it turns out that it's actually not working, we're actually past that, you were talking about honeymoon of the working from home phase in the beginning, then what do? We don't really want to sort of put something out and then pull it back. It's better to sort of trial and error, rather without the error, but sort of test, add. And as you're saying, we're very relaxed in our approach for the time being. And that's basically our strategy, not to take any quick decisions on when we're supposed to be back in the office. Because what happens in 2 weeks when everyone has started hugging each other on the street and the restriction need to go back, then we're actually the lucky ones that don't have to sort of change anything. We can continue as we are. The people that don't feel vulnerable and really want to go to the office will be able to do so. Whereas the people that prefer working from home will be able to do so.
Yeah, interesting. I think it seems to make sense, this type of strategy, because something that was discussed a lot very early in this pandemic, when the companies transitioned to let their workforces work from home, was the fact that productivity levels went up. Which was kind of a big surprise, I think, to many, that, okay, the whole organizations, we work from home, the productivity levels are supposed to go down, but they are going up. This is now a proof that we can work from home forever. But maybe, and this is, I guess, something that the test of time will show, is the fact that maybe that was a result of there just wasn't anything else to do during that time.
Exactly. I think that this can be seen from so many different angles. I think it.
Oh, Heidi disappeared there for a while, but as we just mentioned, on the topic of coming back to work from this pandemic, the point was to discuss a little bit on the fact that people felt in the beginning that working from home increased productivity, and it's an interesting point, I think, in general, because the whole thing where the productivity levels did go up in the beginning was something, like mentioned before, that people use this kind of as a proof to say that, yeah, now we will be able to work from home forever. The interesting thing will be to see, as we now step into summer, and all the events start happening, at least here in Malta, where the events are now starting, and everything is now kind of happening again here on the island. Things are opening very aggressively. The interesting thing now will be to see, when people continue to work from home, will they will the productivity levels stay and remain the same, or will the productivity levels now decrease then to kind of these expected levels, so to say. As we are waiting for Heidi to return to the stream, I can mention a little bit on kind of what our policy is in iGaming Next, and how kind of we have dealt with this with our employees. I think we are lucky in the sense, we are organization. We are 9 people in total in our organization, and the way we dealt with this is, we are a very close group, so it becomes a lot easier for us, I think. We trust each other, we communicate with each other every day. So for us to go over to a strategy of working from home was a lot easier for us. Hi, Heidi.
Hey, what happened?
You're back. I don't know.
Obviously, we can work from home. We're a tech company.
No, we are live, so then anything can happen. I was just explaining a little bit on what our policy has been in iGaming Next since the pandemic started. I mentioned that for us it's been a lot easier because we are a small organization. So for us to make the transition into working from home was quite smooth. And now when we are discussing, okay, what shall we do now? Because only me and my business partner Martin, we are the only ones who are at the office from time to time. But we have discussed actually that as a policy, we think that it's good to be together as a team. Just like what Todd Hasalter mentioned in the previous podcast, this is, in the end of the day, how you form kind of human relationships with each other, and a lot of ideas pop up just from the kitchen conversations and things like that. So we decided that we will start letting people work from the office on Mondays and Tuesdays. So Mondays and Tuesdays is kind of mandatory to come into the office, unless you have some specific request or whatever. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday will be kind of flexible hours for the team. What do you think of a strategy like that, Heidi?
I
Does
think
that make sense to you?
I think it's not a bad strategy. You have all the people in one place. You have this. You have like-minded people. You work together in a group. I definitely agree to it. And we know, like I know that if I am working from home a couple of days in a month, those are probably my most productive days in terms of getting things done. Whereas culture, loyalty, brainstorming, and actual commitment comes from, for me at least, working with the people in the office, to actually see the team. These are the people I'm working with them for.
Yeah.
We are a human, social animal after
Yeah.
all. But going back to the productivity,
Yes.
that's where I think you lost me.
Yes.
I think it can be seen from different angles. Productivity in the beginning was probably to sort of, I mean, this can be a cynical way of seeing it, and it can be true, but it can also be a mixed combination of them all. All of us being very sort of adamant and being available as soon as I'm in a meeting, but someone is also calling me, so I'm actually more available than ever before. Because I'm not in a meeting room sitting with someone else, and then someone tries to find me a couple of hours later, and then it's fine. I'm actually just a chat away. But then also some people losing the feeling of daytime rhythms. Start working very early, getting an email, something that's super exciting or something that you just sort of need to get away with so that you can focus on the other things tomorrow. Again, things move so much faster, and you don't want to be the person with all the emails lingering on your side. You want to have the ball over. But also there can be, and this might be a cynical way of seeing it, show that productivity can remain high, and to sort of prove that we can continue working. But all in all, we can work from home. But the question is also, for how long? Once you pass that probation period, say that, okay, we now have a very loose, or like yourselves, a time frame working policy that says that on Mondays and Tuesdays we all go into the office. What happens on the other days when we've already proven? Do we start to relax? Do we continue working really hard and being adamant, and sort of that will ultimately break our mental health? Will that raise the bar on expectations for managers of their employees? So given that this is a period that we know has an end, even if we don't know when this has an end, but in some way it will have an end. Yes, we will continue socially distancing, and masks will be provided for a long time in many locations. But the fright will remove, and Malta is back living as usual. There is no corona in Malta. And it hasn't really been in Sweden. If I look out the window, there's, you don't see those signs. So if this comes the new normality and everyone is just working from home, you don't meet anyone at the office anymore, then I think that what I noticed, maybe even with myself, probably most with myself because I am the person I live with, but also with managers coming, or in general questions to the board coming saying, are we going to work from home? Can we do it? It works so well for me. The me in this situation has really grown. It works for me, so why shouldn't it work for everyone else? I can really work from home. Don't you trust me? In my position, as responsible for the people, I also have to see to the bigger company. Is this actually, if all, not egos, but all me's grow, then what will happen to the company? Like when we go to the offices, we work for each other, which benefits the company. If everyone is working from home and the me is growing, where will it end? I don't have the answer. I'm purely speculating here, but I can see a danger and a risk of now, before we're actually back in the office, setting a new framework of how we're supposed to be working in the future during the end of COVID, the possible end of COVID, but even after. I mean, we all, again, have quite a relaxed view on the possibility of changing our working from home. But time needs to prove this. So again, that's the plan and the strategy.
Yeah, do you think that we are kind of heading towards a bit of a paradigm shift in the sense that the old school way is you work from the office, that's what we've always been doing, so that's what we should always do. But this kind of puts that on its head a little bit, and obviously there are a lot of employees now. Could always be like an avalanche effect where a lot of employees are now saying just what you said, like I want to work from home. It's working great. Why can't I do that? And it's leading into this like paradigm shift where we're heading towards a future which might be quite different in the sense on how organizations operate and functions with each other, and even perhaps the function of an office.
Yeah, and this is very much pushed by bigger technology companies, Google, Twitter. I mean, our employees are most likely comparing ComeOn with Twitter. They're going to work from home until the end of 2021. Okay, but we can't say that, if there is a second and the third and the fourth wave, it might end up to us doing the same. But this is not something that we can guarantee. We can't even guarantee, because we don't want to go back on anything, that we are not working from the office by the end of the summer. Probably not, but yeah, exactly. It's not something that we're going to guarantee. But yes, I believe that bigger tech companies, renowned tech companies, leading tech companies are pushing it towards that way, definitely. And the smart ones that will continue being a compelling employer obviously has to follow this.
Because I'm thinking like we have good arguments for why you should be at the office. Like yes, we should be able to high five, the human touch and all the things. But maybe like in a couple of years, people will look back at this conversation and we are like the dinosaurs, old school. Like this is how the old school people did. We don't need that kind of thing. That's what I mean. Like the new generation coming up might not see it the same way at all with these things perhaps, and it might go to the point where an office might, just because you have 500 employees doesn't mean you have to have 500 desks. Maybe you need 100 desks, or like, and people can kind of come in as a social kind of hotspot gathering where you work from time to time, but it's more like an exception more than a rule to come into the office.
Definitely, and seeing COVID as an opportunity to sort of fasten that paradigm shift. It's not a far-fetched thought at all. If anything, this has helped it, and it will happen, definitely, because it has already happened in people's personal life. People, we work in an industry that is sort of promoting isolation. You don't go to the casinos as much. You can play it from home. You can FaceTime. You can Skype. I mean, you don't have to meet that much and still socialize and be available with friends. So that is already happening in human nature. So why wouldn't it happen at work?
Exactly, and I mean, there's been these type of shifts before, where if you would ask like factory in the 70s, like to consider to stop stamping in and stamping out, they would tell you that you are crazy. Oh, no, of course we stamp out. Otherwise the employees maybe will not turn up, or they won't be as efficient, or we need those hours for them to be working and things. And that's obviously a mindset that we have largely slid away from, and now we see them as the dinosaurs, would say. And perhaps similarly, in a not too distant future, this mentality of you have to work from the office at all is also the next kind of shift in the evolution of working, so to say.
And I mean, we can talk about that as people that sort of want this to happen, but is it beneficial to the company? Is it beneficial to the actual people to further isolate?
It's a hard question. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Like, what's the benefits? Because we have a tendency of the me will probably grow even bigger then, you know. My Facebook picture isn't fantastic. I have to change it. My work from home, ComeOn is not sending me breakfast home anymore. I'm going to change. Like, what's the next step of being the best employer?
Because
So
this
by
will also
opening
be
that door, you know, you open up to.
Yeah.
There will always be people that are not happy with the opportunities that are given or the possibilities. So we have to thread quite carefully here.
Yeah, exactly. What you're saying is that first this will be the first step, and then kind of you want something else and something, and it never ends, so to say, in the request that you want for me to be productive. That's what you mean, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, at some point it needs to be. You need to kind of put your foot down a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to sound cynical, but I think that is the raw nature. And I think that we've had discussions about this in the HR calls amongst all the companies in Malta, gaming companies. People wanting to have electricity paid for themselves because now we're not working in the office, and this. If everyone is working from home constantly, then that might, after 10 years, actually be a valid request. But we're not ready to go there now because we're still in a probation period with working from home. And yes, it has turned out super. We're super. Our Q1 is fantastic. But again, I don't think it should be rushed.
No, like you're saying, we are still learning in this period. Now, at least in Malta, things are returning very rapidly to normal. It's not even a new normal, I would say. It's just back to the normal that we had. They are starting to do the big parties again, thousands of people. It's as if it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And we are starting to kind of come out of this haze and kind of understand what happened and what we can learn from that and so forth. But it's still obviously very early to say exactly what the effects will do. And what I would be curious to see is just the fact now that when things are opening again now and people are working from home, will this productivity remain the same, or will it be an effect of the fact that there wasn't that much else to do anyway? During the kind of partial lockdown that we had here in Malta. So that will be interesting to find out.
I think that what you're doing is a good plan to come back, have specific, so that you still have a routine and expectations from the office that people need routine, and you come, you brainstorm, you meet up, and you go back home and you're productive. So somewhere in the middle, definitely. I think and I believe, and time has to prove if this is.
For sure. It will be interesting to follow. Now, then there is another perspective in all of this. So I just mentioned that kind of Malta is very rapidly coming back to normal, and there's very few cases now on the island. There's been 1 case per day the last couple of days, or 0, or maximum 5, I think, the last couple of weeks. But what the health ministry is scared of, they are actually saying that we are definitely not past the whole virus or anything like this. But what they are scared of is come autumn, that there might be a resurgence in the virus. But not only that in combination with the influenza season, like a bad influenza season can sometimes keep the hospitals as maximum capacity alone. And what they are saying is, if the virus, if the COVID returns when the weather gets milder, the combination of the two might overwhelm the hospitals, and they are not ruling out to reimpose restrictions if that were to happen. It's something I've been thinking about that a bit, and I wanted to ask you about that too. That must be, if that would happen, can you imagine like the kind of the mental impact that would have on people?
Yes, I can. I mean, even just, I mean, we've seen the trends in Southern America, in the States, it's the same. Germany has also seen like a rapid increase of cases. So I would be surprised if it wouldn't happen in Malta, seeing all the restrictions actually being lifted. For myself, should schools not open up after summer, then I would be, because again, I see that there is an end, so I can like the situation as it is now, and I have my goals, and a good community or communication with my team and management. I mean, things are working now because from my end, I know that there is an end to it. Things will go back to the normal in some way or the other. But should schools not open up and this uncertainty is prolonged, then it will be a mental hit. Then it's not just a phase that we're riding out. This is actually sort of something that we will have to live with for a longer time. But in terms of productivity, I mean, we've proven it. We can continue working like that.
Because I guess if that were to happen in autumn, like that's when it really comes into play, kind of the mental aspect of the whole situation.
Darker times and
the darker times, exactly. Because if there would be this kind of like in Malta, we didn't even have a lockdown. We had a partial lockdown, but even that was obviously very mentally draining for the population here. And if that were to happen again in autumn. I wonder, like from your end, Heidi, like the preparing, yourself for kind of the mental health side of things for the employees must be something that's quite important, I would imagine.
We've put quite a lot of efforts into mental health already from the start. We had campaigns in May, but also before that, and I am so happy that we were either very good at preparing or just very structured, my team being very structured. But we had mental health trainers, first aiders, trained in all our locations just before this happened. So we have people that are available for the rest of the team. We have been running trainings, etc. And this is obviously something that can continue, especially should we continue for a longer time. So the foundations are set. We have adapted in terms of communication. This is one thing that I think that we've done super, super well. We have a newsletter that goes out, not as often as it should during this time. So this has been added, the frequency. So we're adding a lot of more communication through a Monday, sort of weekly. Quick updates from product owners or focus markets, etc., to sort of just keep in touch with the people that are working from home, but also for the employees that have not actually met anyone yet, are new starters that are still sitting in their own countries waiting to sort of go to the offices that they belong to.
How are they doing, the kind of the new starters? How has that process worked during this period for you?
The process is obviously logistics and adhering to regulations and specific sort of, this is what we can do during these scenarios. But employment has continued, recruitment has continued, and we've been sending laptops to various locations. So a lot of posts.
Like how is it? Like, let's say I'm a new starter. Come on, I mean, I haven't even met my manager yet, and now I need to start learning how the organization works and how the team works, who they are, and all of these things. Like, have you been met with many challenges in that regard? Have you felt that the new starters have been able to come into the teams and into the organizations in a good way?
Onboarding, everything has been online, and as we have offices in more than 8-9 locations, we're not used to this from before. Okay. You could have started in Malta office being your home office, whereas your manager could be sitting in London or in Stockholm, and you would do your first months before you traveled with your manager like this. It's more of the culture thing, keeping in contact and being in touch. But again, as we have more time and we're more available, there is a tendency of feeling that I've been super. Again, the service shows that the one-on-ones with managers are very happy with this. They're frequent enough. Communication with managers and within the team is really good. But again, the question is within the team, what happens then outside the team?
Organization, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned obviously you have offices in 8-9 locations, and the geographical differences. Like, what have you seen there? Like, from Malta to London to Stockholm and your other locations. What is the feeling now? You would say, is it quite? Is everyone in a quite similar frame of mind, or is there a lot of differences in how things are playing out in terms of your employees wanting to return, or how they see these policies?
The want and the will is exactly the same. The data is very, very similar. The one that sticks out is obviously London. We're not opening that office. You're recommended not to travel by public transport. All our other offices are open to the extent that, you always have 10% of people coming in. And especially in Malta, this is now increasing as well. So people try to go back to their normal way of working. And the people that really like working from home will continue doing this for quite some time. So when and if and how we are all back in the office, that is, as we used to say, it's an organic path ahead.
It's an organic approach, and we are learning as we go here. I think every single organization and small companies, big companies are trying to figure this out, I guess. And we've seen, like you mentioned, like massive tech organizations, they have made these commitments that you can work from home. There's Slack just announced it the other day together, Google, Facebook, Twitter as well, some other organizations that to the end of the year, they are allowing pretty much everyone to work from home as they see fit. I think Apple actually have a similar stance to you, Heidi. So that's something you can take as a compliment too. You're an Apple. You're on the same level. I think Apple mentioned this that they aren't testing a specific policy, but they are kind of being very lenient in general and playing it as they go.
You probably have within each and every industry clusters that are behaving in somewhat the same. I mean, in Malta, the gaming companies are not that far away from each other. Some of us are going back to the offices beginning of July. Some have communicated that end of September, but it could also be pushed forward, so they could actually go back on that. So, and then there are a few of us that are sort of in the middle, awaiting results.
Yeah, and I would say like I would like to give like one last key takeaway before we say adieu today, but it's really cool to see that this situation really brought the iGaming industry in Malta together the way it did. It's been amazing actually. So in the HR forum, HR Connect, which is represented by most of the major iGaming organizations, set up weekly meetings to discuss what are the organizations doing. Everyone is playing very open cards with each other, and it's really awesome to see that everyone is just doing what is best for the employees.
Yes. And we were quite clear in the beginning as well, saying this is not something that we should sort of, it's not a wave that we should ride on in terms of showing who can handle this in the best way. We are sending our people home because we care more than anyone else. We don't have this approach in this group. And I think that's also very, very, we can work together because this is not really productivity based in that sense.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I mean, it's like what other industry can collaborate this well? I mean, it's fantastic. I haven't seen that before, and obviously you are a part of that, Heidi. So so thank you for that, and for leading these HR Connect sessions. It's been fantastic, and it's always really interesting to hear. So thank you, Heidi, for
Thank you.
sharing the information today. It's been really interesting. So my last question to you is now then, Heidi, when do you think is the next day you will be at the office?
On the first day when my kids are in school, then I'm going to go to the office. I am going to buy that coffee on the way, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to just talk to everyone.
Talk to everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. Extrovert mode on.
Exactly. I'll work on the Sunday before so I can talk to everyone.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Heidi.
Thank you, Pierre.
It's been fantastic, and I wish you a fantastic day. And also thank you to everyone who listened in. Thank you so much, and I wish everyone a beautiful, corona-free and good day. Goodbye.
Ciao, ciao. Bye.